Welcome to ClipNotes.
The movie! Ghostbusters! The plot!
A trio of paranormal college professors start a ghost extermination business just in time for the supposed apocalypse.
The characters!
Paranormal scientist Dr. Peter Venkman, a fast-talking, womanizing, intellectual, and borderline charlatan. Dr. Ray Stans, a lovable nerd and all-around big kid. Dr. Egon Spengler, a big-brained nerd with no sense of humor. Winston Zeddemore, a last-minute hire for the Ghostbusters, not a scientist, just hired help. Dana Barrett, cello player who lives in a very scary apartment. Louis Tully, that's Dana's neighbor. Gozer, all-around bad news destroyer of civilization. Secretary Janine Melnitz, the Ghostbusters answering service. Ghostbusters was released in 1984 and created by a bunch of Saturday Night Live people and the guys who made all those raunchy early 80s comedies. Aside from having a lot of big names from comedy, this movie actually came out of nowhere. It had a pretty big budget, but almost comes across as an indie film today. Something that a risky movie like this is gonna have. But this was Dan Aykroyd's brain baby. He wrote it out of a love of the supernatural and a love of comedy. And that's what makes good movies. Love. And they had special effects people who worked on Star Wars, so screw it, it's probably gonna be good. The story begins at the New York Big Ass Library. Some books do some very irresponsible rearranging of themselves in a sort of haunted fashion. The Dewey Decimal System tries to kill this sweet old librarian lady. She runs around the bookshelves and comes upon what can be assumed is a ghost that scares the ever-loving crap out of her.
Bam! Logo time!
Now we meet Dr. Venkman in the office of him and his colleagues. Venkman does a test on these two college kids to see if they have ESP, but he manipulates the results so that he can schmooze this teenage girl. Oh yeah, that's okay. That's all put to a stop when in comes Ray, super excited about a
free-floating, full-torso vaporous apparition.
Yeah, that. Ray then insists that Venkman come to the library. You get the idea that these guys have been dorking around trying to find evidence of ghosts for a while, and this one seems pretty solid. Then they find Egon in the library and talk to the people who run the place for a minute. They go down below to find the library ghost, but instead are faced with a stack of books. Ray smells something very quiet, which I guess turns out to be ectoplasm all over the Dewey cards. So now they're like ooey gooey Dewey cards. Kind of makes me wonder what this stuff smells like. Peppermint? Cold pizza? I don't know what ghost crap smells like. I feel incomplete as a person. A haunted bookshelf falls right behind the guys, because lots of book-based hauntings happen in the library. As they near what I guess is creating the signal, they confer with each other momentarily and decide that Venkman should try to talk to the ghost, but she just shushes him.
Hypocrite!
Oh, so Ray puts together a plan to get her, and then, I mean, maybe I'm lucky, but seriously, this right here, that was the most traumatic thing that ever happened to me as a child. Old lady, flash, horrible creature. For more information on why ghosts transform into monsters and try to scare people out of places, please read the handbook for the recently deceased. The guys run away from the ghost to ghost. They run all the way to some park, and Egon tells them that with his new readings, he believes he can catch a ghost. Sure, why not? This is what happens in a comedy. Not a lot of story, lots of the jokes. This guy, scientist, also this guy, ghost them scary. We can catch. Comedy ensues. When they get back to the college, they find that their funding has been taken away and they're all fired, and Bill Murray's like, this is preposterous. So Ray and Venkman get drunk next to some New York wall and decide it's time to go into business for themselves. Ray takes out another mortgage on his house, and bada bing, bada boom, it's the 80s, people can afford to start a business. Meanwhile, at the Ghostbusters Firehouse headquarters playset, some assembly required, they tour an old firehouse, which Ray just loves because it has a pole. Enter the Shandor building, which might be superimposed into the shot. Maybe. This an important gargoyle. And this an important goyle. Dana Barrett has just arrived home. She briefly turns down Louis, her neighbor, who is trying to flirt with her. Inside her apartment, she sees the Ghostbusters' new terrible TV commercial and moves on to put her groceries away. But that doesn't work out because her eggs all burst open on the counter and cook themselves, and then she finds another dimension inside her refrigerator. And then back to the Ghostbuster headquarter Lego set. They hired the wrong guy to pick their font. Ray shows up in a busted up old hearse. Ghostbusters got themselves a secretary, but no ghosts to bust. So she's just reading the rags and flirting with old Egon here. Enter the dame. Dana arrives looking for help, and zip bibbidi babbidi boo, Venkman's on the case. They give her the old third degree, and she has amazing comprehensive memory and wherewithal to understand a talking hellhound when it's spouting nonsense.
And this voice said, Zool.
Sure it did. The guys just make some shot-in-the-dark guesses about how they're going to proceed. They're paranormal researchers. They got this covered. At Dana's apartment, Venkman has to look around and finds nothing. He checks everything out using some kind of a sniffing device. My guess is Ray invented this to smell traces of ectoplasm since he caught such a sniff of it earlier at the library. Venkman flirts with Dana, and she gets a little insulted by him coming on to her, so she kicks him out. The guys have Chinese food, and suddenly, just as Janine is about to leave for the night, she gets the call. The who you gonna call. And here come the guys. Like so many strippers, their individual personalities really come out when they're on the pole. Ray's a goofball, Venkman's too cool for school, and Egon's a nerd. Where did all their money go? Kabazam! Ecto 1 1, they arrive at the Cedric being, discreet. The manager tells them the hotel has always been haunted, but it's much worse now. They banter a little bit about how they're all wearing unlicensed nuclear accelerators and never tested them before. That's how we do it in Hollywood. If something seems impossible, like stopping a giant asteroid, restarting the Earth's core, time travel, or ghost trapping, throw nuclear power at it. It's science fiction. They come out on the floor where the ghost was last seen, stalk the halls, and nearly kill the help. The guys split up, and within mere seconds, Ray comes upon the hotel's ghosts. And he's got to go it alone. Just Ray versus Slimer. What is Slimer? Why does he look this way? Why is he haunting this hotel? In the future, Slimer would become the Ghostbusters' trusted sidekick in the cartoon series. All he manages to do there is trash the place, eat things, and make weird noises. Dan Aykroyd said that Slimer was the ghost of his old pal, John Belushi. But now, nothing's more ironic than Aykroyd's assertion that Slimer has a love for life. But that's so sad. Ray shoots John Belushi, and off he goes! They find the ghost, they lose the ghost. They find the ghost again. Egon urges the men to never cross the streams of the proton packs, on account of it possibly killing them. Yeah, subtle. I wonder if that'll come back up in the story. So there's a little bit more zip-a-zap. They start destroying the place to try and catch the ghost. Then they catch the ghost. And then they charge the hotel manager several $1,000s for their services. This montage kicks in where they just get job after job, busting ghosts, making headlines in magazines, radio, and television. Ray has a dream where a ghost gives him a blowjob. In case anyone was wondering, this was originally going to be an entire backstory with Ray falling in love with a ghost in an old fort, where if you dressed up in a military uniform, a ghost would appear and do stuff. Probably a bit of Aykroyd's personal interest in the paranormal manifesting in the movie here, but it got cut for time. When the montage ends, we meet Winston. They hire him very quickly just to help out with the ghost busting. Not just because he's willing to believe anything for a steady paycheck, but also because he was formerly an Air Force demolition expert and had a much larger part in the previous draft of the script, so he had to get in there somehow. Then Venkman finds Dana so he can hit on her and discuss her predicament. He explains that the monster in her apartment is Zool, a demigod. Then he asks her out on a date. Classic. Then the previous scene where Winston was hired picks back up. Note, cigarette, shoulder slime, outfits. You can tell they just inserted this scene with Dana right in the middle here, which is the kind of editing mess you'll have on your hands when you rewrite a central character to just abruptly be introduced after the montage. Ray shows Winston where they put the trapped ghost, and if you want to know more about what it's like inside the storage facility, check out the animated series. And just then, Walter Peck from the EPA is there to talk to Venkman about the possible effects on the environment of the containment grid. Venkman kicks the guy out, and Egon explains to the group that ghost hunting activity in Manhattan is up 6,000%, and illustrates this by talking about a 35-foot Twinkie. Oh, one can dream. Fast forward to Thursday night. So over at the Shandor building, one of the gargoyles comes to life and I guess heads down to Dana's apartment and kidnaps her.
Oh my god, that's so freaky.
Moments later, another gargoyle from the building attacks Lewis and chases him right out of the building. Venkman shows up for his date just in time to miss everything. Dana is now possessed by Zool and thinks Venkman is the key master.
Oh, this shit's getting crazy now.
Venkman keeps asking questions. Dana puts the moves on him, and you may have thought Venkman was a typical womanizer, but he's a stand-up guy. He knows that if a woman is possessed by a demon spirit, she cannot give actual consent, and it is not okay to shag. He tries to chill Zool out so he can talk to Dana, but Zool ain't no fool and starts to make with the bad mojo, levitating the whole bit. Meanwhile, out on the streets of New York, Lewis is possessed by the actual keymaster, Vince Clortho. But since he's doing this out in the public, he soon gets arrested, and due to his glowing red eyes and weird shit he's saying, police take him to the Ghostbusters. Janine keeps on flirting with Egon, not yet realizing that she had just met her soulmate. See Ghostbusters 2 for more information. It's pretty clear from the thermal camera that there's a damn hellhound up in Louis Tully's head. Egon and Janine sit and talk with the guy and realize he is the key to a lot of trouble. Somewhere out in the Ecto-1, Ray and Winston are having a talk about Dana's building and how it's constructed very peculiarly. Winston surmises that maybe there's been so many hauntings because Judgment Day is nigh. That's what biblical times do. They get nigh. The next morning, the EPA guy and some police show up at the GBHQ ready to shut down the containment grid. Venkman returns from Dana's apartment and things just get worse. The Ghostbusters try to explain to the police and Walter Peck that shutting down their system is a bad idea. They do it anyway, and alarms start blaring, lights start beaming out between the bricks. It looks happy. The roof busts open, and Zool wakes up. Vince declares this is the sign from Gozer, which basically means that this entire time the Ghostbusters, Walter Peck, the tenants at Dana's building were all pawns set into motion to fulfill a prophecy for the coming of Gozer. This plot's pretty understated, but it's kind of cool. And all the Ghostbusters are arrested. So ghosts have been freed from the protection grid and are flooding the city. Big spooky cloud monster comes out of the subway. This old cab gets inhabited by a rioting corpse. Wait, this looks familiar. Is this the same cab driving ghost who picks up Frank, Cross, and Scrooge? Cab looks the same. They're both crummy drivers. Canonically speaking, the Ghostbusters have had 2 run-ins with the Christmas spirit from Charles Dickens' story. And the Ghost of Christmas Present defected from his position and was trapped by the Ghostbusters, leaving the position open for... From the look of the 3 spirits, after the Ghost of Present left, the Ghost of Christmas Past filled in for him and let this cabbie take over as the Ghost of Christmas Past. But wait, does that mean that Venkman has a long-lost twin brother who is actually a millionaire TV executive?
Well, I sure think so.
Benz is heading back to the Shandor building, which explodes a little bit. Well, Dana's wall explodes. Meanwhile, the Ghostbusters are all held up in a jail cell after being arrested, where they were allowed to hold on to the blueprints of the Shandor building for some reason. Ray explains that the building was constructed as a superconductor for spiritual energy, but Egon's got the rest of the story as told in the Tobin's Spirit Guide. 50 years ago, a group of Gozer followers made the building and held rituals there in order to bring about the end times, which as we know are now nigh. The guard Wait, is that Reginald Vell Johnson as a cop? Now you gotta wonder if Al Powell ever lived in New York City. If that is Al, well...
I shot a kid.
That kid he shot is probably a really weird-looking ghost now. But anyway... Benz and Zool are at the Shandor building, about to get it on and bring Gozer back. The guard escorts them to the mayor's office, where specialists confirm to the mayor that the city is under attack by ghosts, and these guys may be able to help. So the mayor sends in the Ghostbusters to save the day! With the mayor's help, the Ghostbusters appear to enact martial law or something. I don't know. The military shows up and escorts them to the Shandor building, and an audience gathers around the Ghostbusters. The building starts shaking, the street opens up and consumes them all. Guys come out of the ground, and they're all okay. And they walk up a stairwell for God knows how long, while Zool and Vinge finish up with the cuddling. The guys reach Dana's apartment, finding it's all exploded out. Nice view, by the way. Chalice get paid pretty good in New York City, apparently. They find a hidden staircase to the roof, and Venkman, the chicken shit, sends his friends into certain doom ahead of himself. While that's happening, Dana and Lewis's possessed bodies get transformed into the same hounds that are possessing them. That is both terrible and tragic. Finally, a gateway opens up, and out steps Gozer, known to children at the time as the bubbly skin suit lady. Ray tries to intimidate Gozer with some bureaucratic jibber-jabber, but then when Gozer figures out that this is not a god, she gives him a hell of a shickety-shockety shot. But that just makes him angry, because, like the song says, one ain't afraid of no ghost. They zap old Gozer with the proton streams and miss.
Damn, girl, rock them high heel shoes.
After another shot at her, they think they've won, but Egon, the killjoy, checks the readings.
Frickin' readings keep ruining everything.
So Gozer disappears, and her disembodied voice demands that they choose a form for their destructor, meaning that anything that they imagine will then come to life and destroy their society. They attempt to blank it out of their minds, but Ray causes the manifestation of a 100-foot stay-puffed marshmallow man who looks friendly enough, but just scares the shit out of every New Yorker within a 3-block radius. They open up the proton packs on the big-ass marshmallow and nope, not friendly! So as the situation escalates into bad Godzilla proportions, Egon says that crossing the streams, though still potentially catastrophic for anyone wielding the device, could very likely destroy Gozer's portal and put an end to this nightmare. Then there's this sweet little tender moment between Ray and Venkman as they accept that they're about to die. And now for the climax. These 4 grown men then push their wands together to cause a huge explosion to destroy a hole. Stay Puft gets melted instantly, and marshmallow cream goes everywhere. The Ghostbusters are okay, though more s'more-like than before, but they find old Zool roasted to a fine crisp and assume that Dana is lost.
Think out she's okay too.
Just trapped inside the lifeless gargoyle. They get her out, they get Lewis out of the other gargoyle, and Winston proclaims that he loves this town. Really, Winston? This is the kind of stuff that keeps New York in your heart?
Turn up that Ghostbusters theme song.
Everybody's happy except Dana, who still seems a little uncomfortable with Venkman's sexual advances. People cheer as the Ghostbusters head back to their headquarters, and Slimer eats the camera. Thanks for watching ClipNotes summary of Ghostbusters. What other movies would you like to see summed up? What franchises do you think need ClipNotes so that you can watch upcoming movies without feeling lost? Say what's up in the comments below, and be sure to like and subscribe to Jabberwatching.